Hello, my name is Dr. Jonathan Kuttner. I work as a pain specialist, and this is the second of a series of videos. In the first video, we talked about how the chronic pain process is complex, and it involves both problems in your body and problems in your pain system, and that there always is a very powerful mind-body connection. I just want to share a picture with you. One of my great passions is kite surfing. So basically I have a kite floating in the air and I'm going along, it's pulling me along through the water. And if you imagine just the kite, so the kite is free, it's floating, it's very happy, which is the way our lives are when we are free floating and moving along. And then suddenly something happens and my kite, which happens, goes tumbling down. So the wind drops, or I do something stupid, and the kite falls down and it's smashed, it's rolled round and round by the waves. Now the kite is attached to me by long strings, and what happens is when it gets wound around, I kind of drag myself out of the water, walk across to this kite on the ground, move the kite aside, and there is this huge mass of string that's just wound around in an enormous mess. And I think, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Now, if you use this picture as a metaphor for our lives, we're floating along, then something awful happens. You either have an accident or something occurs which knocks us from floating down and tumbles us around, and then when we just come up for air from this process, there is this huge mess. And this mess now for a lot of people manifests itself as chronic pain. When you look at this mess, you take this mess along to lots and lots of doctors and lots of practitioners, and each one looks at another bit and says, aha, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to make you better, I'm going to cure you, I'm going to cure you. And the mess remains. And you think, oh my God, I am stuck. Nobody can make me better. And then, turning it around, you see a tiny little string just over there. And you think, I think that if I was able, this is my first step, if I was able to take the end of the string and start unraveling this huge mess, I could clear it up. And that first step is trigger points. Now the beauty of this is that the person who found that is you. And the person who's got to undo that is you. And as you start going down into this morass, or sort of down the rabbit hole, as you start going into it, you find that in fact the answer to the next steps and all the other difficulties that come in your path have to be answered by you. So what happens is that your pain system amplifies and takes the messages from the painful area, amplifies them, and it changes them such that you feel much more pain than is actually the amount of damage. Now, to understand that, let me tell you a story. This is a torture that has been done for quite a number of years. It's called water torture. And what was done was that people would be captured, and the torturer would tie them down so they couldn't move, and he would then just have a dripping tap, and the dripping tap would drop a little bit of water, just one drop of water, onto the forehead of the person who was held and could not escape. And in the beginning, lying there, you would feel the drop. It would be cold, just a little drop of water like this. And as time went on, something would happen. And what would happen is that in your mind, you knew you couldn't escape. you became fearful, increasing anxiety, and the workings of your mind started to amplify the message of that little drop of water, such that over a period of time, the little drop of water would, the sensations would amplify and amplify until the next drop would be the most agonizing explosion inside your head. You would become so fearful, and people would scream. In fact, you can go absolutely mad. People would become, it was just the most horrendous, subtle but horrendous torture. And the reason that this happened, and it worked with everybody, nobody was exempt, and the reason that it happened is the same process that occurs in chronic pain, and that is the original problem, that message is amplified by fear, anxiety, and many other negative thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. And this is how powerful the connection between the workings of your mind and the workings of your body can be. The interesting thing, and this is the next big question, is, are you your mind? And the understanding now of the way the mind works is that the answer is no, you're not your mind. There are two separate processes going on inside your head. And that's your head, my head, everybody's head. The first process is that there is a thinking bit, thinkery. And this is a very, very busy little servant rushing around, producing thoughts and producing images and emotions and beliefs and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, and it brings them up to something else, which is the observer, which is you. You can always separate, if you so wish, separate yourself from the thoughts in your mind. So we need to understand this duality that exists in all people. Now, if we go back 10,000 years, if you imagine that you are a very primitive person, human being, and you're in the jungle, and you're sort of wandering along, pulling your large club, and then you see a pretty flower. You start looking at the flower, and suddenly there's a disturbance in the bushes just behind. You can just hear a whew, the leaves are just moving. Okay. If you could have a number of thoughts, you could think, oh, well, there's a bit of wind flowing through there, or maybe there's, or you could think, I wonder if that means there's a saber-toothed tiger just about to come rushing out and eat me. Now, if in the situation of a primitive man, if you thought, I think that's a bit of wind, and then you looked down at the flower and it was a saber-toothed tiger, well, that would be the end of you. You'd be chomped. And therefore, what happened is the people that survived, their mind would immediately interpret a whole lot of things as danger. So our minds, and this is our servant, this is the bit that produces the constant chatter in our head. Our minds are constantly producing, I wonder what happened, all negative, and we know that. We know that negative stuff, we feed on negative stuff. If you look at the news, you don't hear happy things. We're constantly having this chatter and this noise from us, from our people around us, from civilization, but most of all from our minds, telling us negative stuff, danger, 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 this could be danger, that could be danger. Okay, so now once you realize that this is how we function, but that you are the observer, maybe the observer, which is the essential you, maybe that's a spark of the infinite, if you believe in that sort of thing. I do. And maybe that little bit, that observer, moves on when you die. But there is no doubt that there is some part of you which is separate from all this noise, all this stuff being produced. Now, once you recognize that, then the messages that come to you are just messages. You have a choice to accept them or reject them. At any moment, what happens when you get caught into this chronic pain cycle is that these negative messages are constantly produced. This is danger, that's danger. My God, I've got this pain. I'll never get rid of it. Oh, nobody will ever help me. I can see myself as a cripple. I can imagine that it's all going to get worse and worse and worse, and life is going to be worth nothing, and on and on and on and on. And because these messages are coming and your pain is not getting better, you accept them, and in accepting them, you give them power. You actually give them life, and they become part of this circling round and round and round in your being, and they feed back and further amplify the messages coming from your body. Just like when you were lying fixed like this with that next drop of water coming, everything was screaming and your mind was saying, oh my God, this is going to be utterly terrible and it's going to come now, and and then as the water hits, everything is so amplified that it just is the most excruciating pain. So the power comes in to understanding the separation between the two, and the fact that you can choose whether you want to listen to the next bit of advice that comes to you. The funny thing is that when you think about these thoughts that keep coming in, the negative thoughts and the negative beliefs that have come in, is they just keep circling around. There's not like a million of them. For each person, there's a particular pattern, and it's almost like you have an addiction to these thoughts. They keep coming back and you buy into them, and then they sort of go away, and then they come back and you buy into them again, and you go in and they buy into them again, like that. I talked in the first video of that poor tiger circling, constantly caught in a cage. But as different from the tiger, you can at any moment separate, look down and say, that's just a thought. Now, the moment you separate, the interesting thing about thoughts is that they have no power unless you give them power. So, I would like you now to do something. And there are many ways of doing this, but I'd like you to do one beautiful little exercise which will show you how you can separate from these thoughts and how they can have less power upon you. I would like you to take a piece of paper and a pen, and over a period of time, it won't take very long, all the negative thoughts and beliefs that come in, the major ones. As I said, there's not in every person, there's not millions of them, there's just a particular group. They could be things like, I'll never get better, nobody can help me, I'm useless, I'm a this, I'm a that, but whatever it is, whatever your busy mind, which was always looking for saber-toothed tigers and telling you, or danger, 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 and giving you all negative stuff, those thoughts, I want you to write them down on this piece of paper. Good. Now, once you have written them down, I want you to take them, put them down onto your lap, and I want you to look at them and see them as separate from you. You have taken the thoughts from inside this big snarly thing inside you. You've taken them and you've put them outside. Now I want you to take a match, and I want you, or a lighter, and I want you to take this piece of paper and I want you to set a light to it, hold it, watch the flames curl, watch those thoughts just curl around, that's a nice word, curl around and just break into tiny little brown bits of paper, fall down to the ground. And then, having done that, I want you to totally go inside and recognize that those thoughts no longer have the power that they had over you to influence you. Please tell me how you found that. Tell me, I'd really welcome any comments, just comments just below the video. And whether you found it wonderful, whether you found it challenging, whether there's certain things that you found that were impediments for you. I just welcome all that kind of information, and I welcome the conversation. This is the second of a series of videos. In the third video, I'll tell you about my story, and which for me was truly put me in places where I'd never been before, and the journey out of it gave me insights such that I can be sitting here now and sharing this stuff with you. So I look forward to meeting with you all then. Thank you.